My grandfather once told me about this time he was driving through Arizona at night and accidentally hit a big snake that was laying on the highway soaking up the heat of the asphalt. He said he pulled over to go check it out because in the brief moment he saw it before he hit it he noticed it was considerably bigger than a normal snake. He told me that the snake stretched across 1.5 lanes of highway and when he hit it it felt like he went over a speed bump at 60 miles per hour. So he went to go see this huge snake, but when he got back to the spot where the snake was laying there was nothing on the ground but a brown leather jacket with a little bit of blood and tire tracks on it. He told me that he looked out into the desert and saw a figure of a man limping about 100 yards from him. My grandfather ran back to his truck and drove around the desert looking for that man for several hours, never found any trace of him.
My dad claims to have hit some kind of monster with his car. He was in his early 20s and lived on his parents' farm in rural Australia in the 1970s. Him and his brother were driving back to the property late at night on a dirt road through a wooded area, and he claims a 3 m tall skinny creature that was completely white and humanoid looking sprinted out of the trees impossibly fast towards them and hit their bonnet and went over their car. He put emphasis that it was completely unnaturally white, like not skin white but white paint white. They just fucking gunned it and got out of there as fast as they could and didn't look back. They get back to the farm and their bonnet is completely fucked up and crushed in and covered in blood. They went back with their dad in the morning with a rifle and there was blood streaked down the road but no body. He swore on his life this happened until the day he died. And he was a pretty smart and reasonable dude, I have to believe him.
I lay in my bed, restless and alone, on a dark and silent night. I toss and turn in my bed, trying to find a comfortable spot, but I feel uneasy. Something about tonight just didn't feel right. I toss and turn until I finally find a comfortable position. I close my eyes, but it doesn't make a difference, it's too dark in my room to see a thing anyways. I guess it takes time for my eyes to adjust to darkness. I lay there, still and silent on a still and silent night. My body is relaxed, my mind is blank, I'm ready for some much needed rest. Instantly, the silence is shattered and my mind fills with fearful thoughts as my startled eyes flash open. Knock. Knock. It's almost undoubtedly the sound of a fist on glass. But no, it couldn't be. What would someone's motivation be to wake someone alone in their home? Think logically. If someone wanted to break in, why would they warn me with a knock? They would just break in, making a loud and obvious noise, or try to be as silent as possible. Why would they knock? Monsters don't exist. I could give myself some peace of mind and simply look out the window, but I'm facing the other way and I'm too timid to turn my head, afraid of finding my greatest fears standing outside my window. What could it be though? Maybe a couple of birds flew into my window. No, that's too unrealistic. Could a group of kids be running around late at night, knocking on windows to get a few laughs? It's a possibility. Come to think of it, maybe it was my imagination. Maybe I heard the usual creak in the house and my paranoid mind has mistaken it for a knock. 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 Nope, that definitely wasn't my imagination. Those damn kids are persistent. They don't want to quit until they get that reaction. Maybe some sick twisted freak is standing outside waiting for me to look so he can smash through and attack me. No, don't think that. Don't get paranoid. Besides, he's outside, I'm inside, until I hear a shatter, I know I'm safe. Monsters don't exist. Besides, I haven't moved yet, hopefully those kids will think I'm a heavy sleeper and leave me alone. Knock. Knock. No, it can't be kids. No kid would wait around this long just to get a reaction from one lonely guy, they'd just get bored and move along. But, what could it be? Why would a serial killer target me, of all people? Think logically. Monsters don't exist. Don't get paranoid. They're outside, I'm inside, until I hear a shatter, I know I'm safe. But if it's not a monster or some sort of killer, what could it be? Just pretend to be asleep and maybe they'll go away. Knock. Knock. Oh God, I can't think of a noise I hate more than that persistent knock. Please go away. Just leave me alone and let me be. There's no hope. It's going to get in here and do sick and horrible things to me. Inhale. Take deep breaths. I can feel my heart pound out of my chest. Just relax. Monsters don't exist. Remember, they're outside, I'm inside, until hear a shatter I know I'm safe. Repeat that. Don't let your paranoia get the best of you. Just pretend to be asleep. Don't move a muscle. Knock. Knock. They're outside, I'm inside, until I hear a shatter, I know I'm safe. Monsters don't exist. Just pretend to be asleep and pray it'll go away. Knock. Knock. They're outside, I'm inside, until I hear a shatter, I know I'm safe. Frightful tears begin to drip down my face. Monsters don't exist. Monsters do not exist. I begin to whisper to myself, they're outside, I'm inside, until I hear a shatter, I know I'm safe. They're outside, I'm inside, until I hear a shatter, I know I'm safe. Knock. Knock. I can't take it anymore. I'm gonna go mad listening to these knocks. At least if I see what it is I'll have peace of mind. Take a deep breath. I repeat to myself, one more time, they're outside, I'm inside, until I hear a shatter, I know I'm safe. I take a few more breaths, my heart pounding as hard as it's ever pounded at a mile a minute. I slowly turn my head to face the window. My heart sinks into my chest and I'm too afraid to scream or move. I turned my head to find a pale figure with beady, black eyes staring through me and into my soul as a horrid grin creeps across its face. It was standing inside the whole time, knocking on my window.
They say that the hour of 3 a.m. is the time when spirits can become active, and I'm sure of that. My apartment was always a little too quiet for one in the city, especially at night. No drunk shouting in the street at that time, no sound of car horns and alarms could penetrate the dark at that particular hour. It's like my apartment was high on a platform, surrounded only by a dense fog that the sharpest of hawk eyes couldn't penetrate. I was usually attempting to sleep at that time, after bleaching my skin in the pure electric light of my computer screen. Emphasis on the phrase attempting, because from that stems this tale. I advise you, if you've been here long enough to find it, you'll soon discover of what I'm talking about. I should really tell you anyway, just so you know you're not insane. I know I'm not. Every night for the past 4 months that I decided to make this apartment my home, a strange sound would pierce the strange blur that surrounded my home, or maybe just my mind. I have searched the apartment many times for it, but behind the hollow-sounding ivory walls and hard pine floors, I couldn't find any source. The sound, at first, was like scratching. If you have fingernails, drag them along a table. Like that. It was slow, and every time I heard it, I froze up. It wasn't as dramatic as anything like ghostly moaning or anything like that, but it still scared me so much I reverted back to childhood and stuck my head under the blanket. During the day I worked at what could possibly be the most boring place on earth, a factory that stamped out cans. They didn't even need workers, but I really didn't care. It paid the bills, and getting to sit around until someone needed help fixing a machine wasn't too bad. I sort of miss it. There was always something bad happening though. In retrospect, I feel as though it was following me. For instance, a man's hand ended up being caught in the stamping machine under a sheet of aluminum. The crunch was sickening, it sounded like a dog chewing upon a bone. That same splintering sound. Every night, I would retire from this slightly gory boredom to my apartment, back to my beloved computer. The cycle was always the same. Work, computer, scratching sound. I never really thought to ask anyone about it, I would usually forget about it by morning. But one day I didn't. I sat there in my folding chair at work, surrounded by the drab, bleak gray concrete walls, a long-ignored cigarette that was gradually becoming one trembling tower of ashes in my grasp, trying to think of a way to discover whatever this thing was. Why wouldn't I just follow it? get my nerves together and find the continual source of fear for me. It made me cold just at the thought, but I knew I had to do it. So that night, I turned off the computer as usual, but then took one extra step. I grabbed a flashlight. It would be faster than dashing across the room to my light switch. It could even be mice, I thought to myself as I slipped into bed, wearing the hero's garb of any sleepy man, a pair of boxers and socks. At least if I ran crying out of the building, a few people could get a laugh. The clock slowly began to head towards 3 o'clock. My heart began to pound nervously. Like a sword I held the turned-off flashlight to my bare chest. The necklace around my neck felt strangely cold, even though I had at least 3 comforters on. Oh, the joys of a particularly cold winter. Closing my eyes, I heard the scratching. Slowly it got louder. My hand began to shake, but I kept my eyes shut. Why wasn't I turning on the light? Why wasn't I looking? Because there was a new sound. A tinkling, strange shaking, like a maraca full of metal instead of beans or beads. A loud thunk against my door made me leap up. Turning on the flashlight, I managed to run to the light switch and flick it on as well. With an icy, trembling hand, I opened the door. What I saw will never leave my mind. There was the source of my fear, the thing that had somehow invaded my home. An oddly small, waif-like creature, like a starving child with skin that was too pale. It was like a corpse dropped in water, for its skin was tinged with blue. Every vein was visible. Oh, how I wanted to gag at the sight. But it gets worse. Strategically placed in this demented creature's flesh, long metal nails were embedded. Through the tips of its fingers and toes, sticking out of its neck and shoulders, down its chest and out of its eyes. They were everywhere. How loudly I screamed, I didn't know. Would anyone hear it through the fog surrounding my house? Would I hear it? I couldn't stop staring. The dried, cracking blood against that decaying flesh brought up my earlier meal, and a gushing hot river of vomit poured out of my mouth onto the ground. I backed up as the creature took a step. Its lank hair was missing in chunks, and as it stepped closer, its feet dragged upon the floor, the nails in them making a scratching sound. Why I had to keep my room in a state of continual chaos, I don't know, but the mess was astounding. Of course I fell. Scrambling back, I stared in horror at the dead thing. It didn't move right, I realized. It didn't just walk. Its motions were snappy and disjointed, and one foot dragged behind it while the other advanced towards me. In its hand, there was a heavy, rusted hammer, dripping with what I hope was water. It was slightly rust-colored. I couldn't bear to see it, but in the other, there was a plastic grocery bag that sagged and poked out with the weight within it, like if someone hung a porcupine from a diaper. I felt the wall against my back. The creature moved forward, I was paralyzed with fear at the sight of it. It was so grotesque. In front of me, it stopped. I noticed the puncture marks upon its tiny calves where the nails were, and I felt a strange sense of pity. The bag in its hand split a little, and the sight of what was within made me let out an audible, and most likely bile-scented groan. A nail jutted out. I cried out loudly as the thing pounced upon me. As I felt the first nail go into my eye, it was worse. Through the blood blocking my vision, I could see its tiny mouth pull back in a widely toothed smile, the nails in its lips making them split and gush rotten black blood down onto me. I moaned in pain again as another nail entered my second eye. Blindly I swatted, but it was to no avail. Perhaps it would be over soon. Perhaps death would be better than being tormented by this rotten thing. But still, the nails entered. Still I cried out loudly, especially when I was dragged. I couldn't see where, but damn, it hurt. It's gone now, the nailed child. I don't know where it went, but I know somewhere, it will be coming out at 3 o'clock. And so will I. I think you ought to check your clock, because it looks like this bag in my hand is about to split. I'm so excited to see you.
When I was young, I lived on a farm in rural Oregon with my parents. I was the only child. We weren't a big commercial farm. Just a family type thing. We had 5 cows, 3 horses, a small herd of goats, 2 dogs, and 1 chicken coop. We also had some Indian runner ducks we kept mostly as pets. We didn't really make any money off the place, just enough to sustain the animals and a little extra for ourselves. Money enough to take a decent vacation every couple of years. Dad had his other job in town, an insurance agent. He was the only one around really. The town wasn't more than about 1,500 people. Mom gave horse riding lessons as well. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. It was really an easy life, or at least it could have been a lot worse. I went to school, Dad went to work, Mom took care of the animals, then we all had dinner together every night, and I would go to bed while Mom and Dad had a beer or two and watched the news. Sometimes at night I would hear things outside. Mostly just normal stuff. The cows or horses would get spooked by a coyote or something, or I would hear the dogs chasing a rabbit, barking their heads off. Every once in a great while we would find a chicken dead. Dad would always tell me about it but never let me see the body, although I asked frequently. He would keep Mom and I inside until he had gone out, did whatever he did with the body, throw sawdust over any blood, and then life would go on as normal. I assumed it was foxes, as I had seen a couple of them out in the pasture over the years, slinking around back and forth through the grass. The summer when I was 10 years old, I remember helping Mom change the bedding in the horse stalls, when we heard a huge racket going on outside. If you've never heard the sounds of a horse in pain, you don't want to, trust me. It sounds almost like a person screaming. Well, that's what we heard, and one of our horses, the palemen, came running into the barn with a wound on its left thigh. 4 long marks, like claw marks, ran across its body for about a foot. It had blood running down its leg, and was limping. I was so scared by the sight of that much blood that Mom locked the horse in a stall and made me go inside with one of the dogs. She told me to lock the door and stay inside until she came in to get me. I did. Eventually Mom came inside and told me that the horse had hurt itself on the barbed wire that ran the perimeter of the pasture. We owned more land beyond that, but it was mostly forested. I guess I believed her at the time, but at dinner that night I noticed Dad was being particularly quiet and Mom was talking a lot more than she normally did. She was being really animated, and I noticed that Dad had gotten his rifle out and set it by the back door. Usually he only did that when the coyotes had been acting up. That night I went to bed as normal, but I had trouble falling asleep. I turned on my desk lamp and decided to read comic books until I got tired. I have a very vivid memory of reading Uncanny X-Men and hearing the back door open. Looking out, I could see my dad by the porch light, lighting a cigarette and holding his rifle under his arm. He started walking over to the driveway and then turned to follow the fence line. I couldn't sleep until I knew Dad was back safe. I kept coming downstairs with the excuse of getting water to see if Dad was back in the house yet, and each time all I saw was Mom sitting on the couch in the living room, staring at a blank TV screen and looking worried, sighing occasionally. Eventually, about 4 in the morning, I think, Dad did come back, and I was so tired and relieved that I fell asleep as soon as I knew he was home. He never told me what he did that night, but I never thought to ask. 2 months later I was back in school. It rains a lot in Oregon in the fall, and this day was no different. All I could hear from my bedroom was rain hitting the ground and the aluminum roof of the chicken coop. There was light thunder in the distance, but it was slowly getting closer. I thought I had heard a coyote yapping out around the garage, or it could have been one of the dogs. I looked out, straining my eyes to see whatever there may have been. In a brief and distant lightning flash I saw something. It looked almost like a person, but hunched over, and with a long torso. It was tall, taller than Dad, who was a good 6'4", at least. I just barely caught a glimpse of it on the near side of the garage, then the light faded and I didn't see it again that night. There was another dead chicken the next morning. The third in just as many weeks. I told Dad what I had seen the previous night. The color went out of his cheeks momentarily, until he told that the storm must have been playing tricks on me. I accepted that. 4 months after that we lost a cow. It was in the middle of the night, and we all woke up at the same time. There was a lot of noise in the pasture, but only briefly. The cry of a dying animal, and a primitive, guttural yell that I had never heard before. Dad rushed up to my room. I could hear him running up the stairs to my room. He had his rifle in hand, and opened my door. He saw I was awake and told me to stay inside no matter what and try to go back to sleep. I don't think I have to say that sleep wasn't really an option any longer, but I did stay in my room, with a blanket held tight around my shoulders and staring out the window. Probably about 10 minutes later I heard gunshots in the field. I don't know what he was shooting at, whether it was whatever had attacked the cow, or the cow itself, trying to put the animal out of its misery. Dad rarely, if ever, talked about that night. I later found out that he had gotten to the cow only to find it ripped open on the ground, bleeding out from its torso. The shots I heard were him shooting the cow in the head. It kept going like that. For years. A chicken or a duck here and there. Something bigger only very rarely. It sounds absurd, but I almost came to think of it as commonplace. I only ever caught glimpses of the thing until what comes next. It terrified me. It happened in the middle of the day, over the course of a long weekend when my parents had gone to Seattle to see my uncle, who was ill. It was on a Saturday afternoon. I was 17 years old. I was out in the barn putting out food for the horses and the dogs. The horses were running around out in the pasture and the dogs were asleep in the corner of one of the horse stalls. I heard something rustling in the tall grass outside in the pasture. The dogs looked around a little bit but didn't seem to mind. I assumed it was just one of the horses waiting for me to leave so they could eat. I kept going about what I was doing, and in several minutes I thought I heard breathing. I turned to look and it was standing in the door. Tall as hell, even hunched over. The sun was streaming in behind it, lighting up all the dust in the air around it like some kind of sickly halo. It was looking at me. Considering me. Maybe it was trying to decide whether or not I was food. I remember swearing, turning, and running as fast as I could for the house, not even thinking. Panic causing my legs to move. It was behind me, not even breathing hard. I heard its feet hitting the ground in a constant rhythm. I got to the house, opened the door, slammed it behind me and locked it as fast as I could. I tore through the house, locking every door, and drawing the blinds on every window. I could hear it snarling outside the back door. The dogs were barking at it, but they wouldn't try to attack the thing. It was too big and they knew it. It roared at the dogs and they ran off, probably to hide in the pasture. I went to my parents' bedroom and got Dad's rifle. I loaded it, set up a chair in the living room facing the back door, and waited. It started prowling around the house. I could hear its feet crunching on the gravel of the driveway and the wooden planks of the back deck. It kept walking, back and forth. I thought about trying to look through a window to see it, but I was too scared. Eventually, after hours of hoping it would go away, the sun went down. I turned on all of the outside lights and went up to my room. I opened my window, with the rifle in my hands, hoping to be able to pick the thing off from above. I saw it lurking just beyond the glow from the porch light. It had long, sinewy arms, and walked on bent knee. It was by the chicken coop. Then it disappeared from view. I heard the chickens squawking and screeching. The thing reappeared with a dead, bloody chicken in its hands. It bit off one of the wings with jaws that were dripping with slime and drool and let the dead bird drop to the ground at its feet. Then it looked at me. Its eyes made contact with my eyes. It turned away again, back to the chickens. It came back with another bird, mutilated it in front of me, and dropped it. It went back again. And again. I should have taken a shot at it, but I was astounded and confused trying to figure out what it was doing. Then it hit me. It was a show of power. It was showing me that it was stronger than me. that it could do whatever it wanted to do because I couldn't stop it. At the same time I felt powerless and sickened. Powerless because what it was saying was true. If it was just that thing and me, I wouldn't stand a chance. Sickened because I realized what kind of intelligence it would need to be able to convey that message. The thought shook me out of my stupor and I remembered the rifle at my side. It was heading back to the chickens, and I decided that when it came back I would take my shot. It strode back to the porch. Almost arrogant, walking on bended knee with those arms so long that the chicken was nearly dragging on the ground. I raised the rifle up to my eye, and tried to steady myself. My heart was beating so hard I could see the rifle shaking ever so slightly in rhythm with each heartbeat I could hear pounding in my own ears. It raised the body to its mouth and just as it was about to put the chicken's head inside, I squeezed the trigger. The crack of the gun echoed in the now shattered quiet of the nighttime standoff and I heard it howl. A painful, loud, startled howl. I had hit it on the outside of the shoulder. It ran off into the night. I never saw it again. It was still out there, though. It still killed chickens, and other things. More often than before. I'm writing all of this now because my parents died 3 weeks ago. They were killed in a collision with a drunk driver. He survived. They left me the farm, and I intend to live here with my own family. I'm 32 now, and I work for an Oregon Fish and Game office in Salem. I'm married to a wonderful woman named Stephanie. We have one son, Zachary, who is 4 years old. We are expecting a daughter in 4 months. I've come to the farmhouse alone today. I told Steph that I just wanted some time alone in my parents' house. To deal with some emotions. She was very understanding. I've come back to claim what is rightfully mine. I have Dad's rifle next to me on the table and it is almost dusk. I've also brought several portable halogen lights to set up around the house, and my own shotgun. I'm borrowing a handgun from Joe, a guy at Fish and Game who I work with. When I am done typing this account of my memories, I will print it out, and leave it on the dining room table, along with my wedding ring and my key to the safe deposit box where my will is kept. Everything is loaded and ready. Hopefully I will return here to collect these things and nobody will ever know I wrote this. Steph, in the event that you are the unfortunate soul to find this, which I'm terrified to think seems a likely outcome, the thought of you having to go on alone hurts me more than anything in this world ever can. Know that I love you more than anything and I hope you understand that I am doing this to keep you safe. Zachary, I love you and can only hope you grow up to be a good, kind-hearted, and strong man like your grandfather was. To my unborn daughter, if I don't live long enough to meet you, it will be the single greatest regret of my life. Tell the police, tell Fish and Game, call Joe, he's one of the few people who knows about this. Make this situation known. Eventually someone will kill it, even if it isn't me. Goodbye for now.
Last year I spent 6 months participating in what I was told was a psychological experiment. I found an ad in my local paper looking for imaginative people looking to make good money, and since it was the only ad that week that I was remotely qualified for, I gave them a call and we arranged an interview. They told me that all I would have to do is stay in a room, alone, with sensors attached to my head to read my brain activity, and while I was there I would visualize a double of myself. They called it my Tulpa. It seemed easy enough, and I agreed to do it as soon as they told me how much I would be paid. And the next day, I began. They brought me to a simple room and gave me a bed, then attached sensors to my head and hooked them into a little black box on the table beside me. They talked me through the process of visualizing my double again, and explained that if I got bored or restless, instead of moving around, I should visualize my double moving around, or try to interact with him, and so on. The idea was to keep him with me the entire time I was in the room. I had trouble with it for the first few days. It was more controlled than any sort of daydreaming I'd done before. I'd imagine my double for a few minutes, then grow distracted. But by the 4th day, I could manage to keep him present for the entire 6 hours. They told me I was doing very well. The second week, They gave me a different room, with wall-mounted speakers. They told me they wanted to see if I could still keep the tulpa with me in spite of distracting stimuli. The music was discordant, ugly, and unsettling, and it made the process a little more difficult, but I managed nonetheless. The next week they played even more unsettling music, punctuated with shrieks, feedback loops, what sounded like an old-school modem dialing up, and guttural voices speaking some foreign language. I just laughed it off. I was a pro by then. After about a month, I started to get bored. To liven things up, I started interacting with my doppelganger. We'd have conversations, or play rock paper scissors, or I'd imagine him juggling, or break dancing, or whatever caught my fancy. I asked the researchers if my foolishness would adversely affect their study, but they encouraged me. So we played, and communicated, and that was fun for a while. And then it got a little strange. I was telling him about my first date one day, and he corrected me. I'd said my date was wearing a yellow top, and he told me it was a green one. I thought about it for a second, and realized he was right. It creeped me out, and after my shift that day, I talked to the researchers about it. "You're using the thought form to access your subconscious," they explained. "You knew on some level that you were wrong, and you subconsciously corrected yourself." What had been creepy was suddenly cool. I was talking to my subconscious. It took some practice, but I found that I could question my tulpa and access all sorts of memories. I could make it quote whole pages of books I'd read once, years before, or things I was taught and immediately forgot in high school. It was awesome. That was around the time I started calling up my double outside of the research center. Not often at first, but I was so used to imagining him by now that it almost seemed odd to not see him. So whenever I was bored, I'd visualize my double. Eventually I started doing it almost all the time. It was amusing to take him along like an invisible friend. I imagined him when I was hanging out with friends, or visiting my mom. I even brought him along on a date once. I didn't need to speak aloud to him, so I was able to carry out conversations with him and no one was the wiser. I know that sounds strange, but it was fun. Not only was he a walking repository of everything I knew and everything I had forgotten, he also seemed more in touch with me than I did at times. He had an uncanny grasp of the minutiae of body language that I didn't even realize I was picking up on. For example, I'd thought the date I brought him along on was going badly, but he pointed out how she was laughing a little too hard at my jokes, and leaning towards me as I spoke, and a bunch of other subtle clues I wasn't consciously picking up on. I listened, and let's just say that that date went very well. By the time I'd been at the research center for 4 months, he was with me constantly. The researchers approached me one day after my shift, and asked me if I'd stopped visualizing him. I denied it, and they seemed pleased. I silently asked my double if he knew what prompted that, but he just shrugged it off. So did I. I withdrew a little from the world at that point. I was having trouble relating to people. It seemed to me that they were so confused and unsure of themselves, while I had a manifestation of myself to confer with. It made socializing awkward. Nobody else seemed aware of the reasons behind their actions, why some things made them mad and others made them laugh. They didn't know what moved them. But I did, or at least, I could ask myself and get an answer. A friend confronted me one evening. He pounded at the door until I answered it, and came in fuming and swearing up a storm. "You haven't answered when I called you in fucking weeks, you dick," he yelled. "What's your fucking problem?" I was about to apologize to him, and probably would have offered to hit the bars with him that night, but my tulpa grew suddenly furious. "Hit him," it said, and before I knew what I was doing, I had. I heard his nose break. He fell to the floor and came up swinging, and we beat each other up and down my apartment. I was more furious then than I have ever been, and I was not merciful. I knocked him to the ground and gave him 2 savage kicks to the ribs, and that was when he fled, hunched over and sobbing. The police were by a few minutes later, but I told them that he had been the instigator, and since he wasn't around to refute me, they let me off with a warning. My tulpa was grinning the entire time. We spent the night crowing about my victory and sneering over how badly I'd beaten my friend. It wasn't until the next morning, when I was checking out my black eye and cut lip in the mirror, that I remembered what had set me off. My double was the one who'd grown furious, not me. I'd been feeling guilty and a little ashamed, but he'd goaded me into a vicious fight with a concerned friend. He was present, of course, and knew my thoughts. "You don't need him anymore. You don't need anyone else," he told me, and I felt my skin crawl. I explained all this to the researchers who employed me, but they just laughed it off. "You can't be scared of something that you're imagining," one told me. My double stood beside him, and nodded his head, then smirked at me. I tried to take their words to heart, but over the next few days I found myself growing more and more anxious around my Tulpa, and it seemed that he was changing. He looked taller, and more menacing. His eyes twinkled with mischief, and I saw malice in his constant smile. No job was worth losing my mind over, I decided. If he was out of control, I'd put him down. I was so used to him at that point that visualizing him was an automatic process, so I started trying my damnedest to not visualize him. It took a few days, but it started to work somewhat. I could get rid of him for hours at a time. But every time he came back, he seemed worse. His skin seemed ashen, his teeth more pointed. He hissed and gibbered and threatened and swore. The discordant music I'd been listening to for months seemed to accompany him everywhere. Even when I was at home, I'd relax and slip up, no longer concentrating on not seeing him, and there he'd be, and that howling noise with him. I was still visiting the research center and spending my 6 hours there. I needed the money, and I thought they weren't aware that I was now actively not visualizing my Tulpa. I was wrong. After my shift one day, about 5.5 months in, 2 impressive men grabbed and restrained me, and someone in a lab coat jabbed a hypodermic needle into me. I woke up from my stupor back in the room, strapped into the bed, music blaring, with my doppelganger standing over me cackling. He hardly looked human anymore. His features were twisted. His eyes were sunken in their sockets and filmed over like a corpse's. He was much taller than me, but hunched over. His hands were twisted, and the fingernails were like talons. He was, in short, fucking terrifying. I tried to will him away, but I just couldn't seem to concentrate. He giggled, and tapped the 4 in my arm. I thrashed in my restraints as best I could, but could hardly move at all. "They're pumping you full of the good shit, I think. How's the mind? All fuzzy?" He leaned closer and closer as he spoke. I gagged, his breath smelled like spoiled meat. I tried to focus, but couldn't banish him. The next few weeks were terrible. Every so often, someone in a doctor's coat would come in and inject me with something, or force-feed me a pill. They kept me dizzy and unfocused, and sometimes left me hallucinating or delusional. My thought form was still present, constantly mocking. He interacted with, or perhaps caused, my delusions. I hallucinated that my mother was there, scolding me, and then he cut her throat and her blood showered me. It was so real that I could taste it. The doctors never spoke to me. I begged at times, screamed, hurled invectives, demanded answers. They never spoke to me. They may have talked to my Tulpa, my personal monster. I'm not sure. I was so doped and confused that it may have just been more delusion, but I remember them talking with him. I grew convinced that he was the real one, and I was the thought form. He encouraged that line of thought at times, mocked me at others. Another thing that I pray was a delusion: he could touch me. More than that, he could hurt me. He'd poke and prod at me if he felt I wasn't paying enough attention to him. Once he grabbed my testicles and squeezed until I told him I loved him. Another time, he slashed my forearm with one of his talons. I still have a scar. Most days I can convince myself that I injured myself, and just hallucinated that he was responsible. Most days. Then one day, while he was telling me a story about how he was going to gut everyone I loved, starting with my sister, he paused. A querulous look crossed his face, and reached out and touched my head. Like my mother used to when I was feverish. He stayed still for a long moment, and then smiled. "All thoughts are creative," he told me. Then he walked out the door. 3 hours later, I was given an injection, and passed out. I awoke unrestrained. Shaking, I made my way to the door and found it unlocked. I walked out into the empty hallway, and then ran. I stumbled more than once, but I made it down the stairs and out into the lot behind the building. There, I collapsed, weeping like a child. I knew I had to keep moving, but I couldn't manage it. I got home eventually, I don't remember how. I locked the door, and shoved a dresser against it, took a long shower, and slept for a day and a half. Nobody came for me in the night, and nobody came the next day, or the one after that. It was over. I'd spent a week locked in that room, but it had felt like a century. I'd withdrawn so much from my life beforehand that nobody had even known I was missing. The police didn't find anything. The research center was empty when they searched it. The paper trail fell apart. The names I'd given them were aliases. Even the money I'd received was apparently untraceable. I recovered as much as one can. I don't leave the house much, and I have panic attacks when I do. I cry a lot. I don't sleep much, and my nightmares are terrible. It's over, I tell myself. I survived. I use the concentration those bastards taught me to convince myself. It works, sometimes. Not today, though. 3 days ago, I got a phone call from my mother. There's been a tragedy. My sister's the latest victim in a spree of killings, the police say. The perpetrator mugs his victims, then guts them. The funeral was this afternoon. It was as lovely a service as a funeral can be, I suppose. I was a little distracted, though. All I could hear was music coming from somewhere distant. Discordant, unsettling stuff, that sounds like feedback, and shrieking, and a modem dialing up. I hear it still, a little louder now.
So this one day I decide to go hiking around in the woods. I often do this when I'm really bored and just want to think to myself while getting some exercise. But I'm really smart about it and always bring a compass with me. I have seen too many episodes of that one show I Shouldn't Be Alive. Anyways, I walk off down a trail I had never seen before, or at least never been down through. I feel like it takes me pretty far from the main trail and deeper into the wilderness. I see a bit more wildlife, like some deer passing by and odd-looking birds. I hadn't seen anyone on this trail since I left from the main trail. I start to worry a little bit because I feel a little too secluded out in the middle of nowhere. I stop and glance at my cell phone to check the time. Then all of a sudden I hear something like a branch break and some weird murmuring. It freaks me out at first, and then I look around to see another person standing a little off the path. I breathe the biggest sigh of relief to find someone else out there with me. It was a woman. I'm the type of guy that tries to be really friendly to everyone I meet. So I walk over to chat her up a little. "Hello there," I said. I decided to play dumb and pretend like I'm a little lost so I can make conversation. "How's it going? Hey, can you tell me which way you came in from?" She is looking right at me but not saying anything. I took a couple steps closer and then immediately felt something terrible flip in my stomach. As I approached her, I noticed she was not human. She looked human but definitely was not. Everything about her looked like an imitation of a human being. It was like looking at a mannequin or a doll. It was bizarre. The eyes blinked but almost as if from under a mask. The pupils were solid black and a little too large. And the eyes themselves were too far apart on her face, and they were open extremely wide. Trust me, if you saw her eyes you would be able to tell also. Her hair looked normal and her body features did too. But she remained perfectly still, almost as if she was paused in mid-step. As I moved around her towards her side, I noticed her head did not follow me but her eyes did. Her head was pushed out in a position that looked like she was leaning in. I stood a good length away from her but close enough to see all the strange details. I could definitely tell she was not really a human. It was a trick. I decided to ask her again. "Excuse me, is this the way back?" I pointed behind me. I was shaking in fear and tried my hardest not to let her notice. Her mouth opened. "Hello there," she said, but the voice was a human imitation as well. There were hints in her voice that made it sound like a pre-recorded voice box. You could just barely tell, but it might as well have been someone talking through a megaphone. How do I get back? Is it down this way? She stood there frozen and unmoving. She was acting so odd, so inhuman in her non-response that I almost just started running away. Her mouth opened again. I think so, she said, and then began to say something else, but it sounded really rushed. I think it could be down that way. Her eyes blinked just like eyes should. They focused increasingly on me, but her head seemed like it couldn't turn towards me still. I just stared at her, speechless for a second while looking at her gaze. Then she opened her mouth once more. You should leave. I backed away. I walked backwards, keeping my eyes on her, and she watched me too, like a statue. As I started to turn, I did almost a power walk as fast as I could. I quickly turned to look at her one last time. Her strange pupils were still fixed on me from the bottom corner of her eye. Head still frozen in place. I turned away. What the hell did I just see? A strange imitation human? I had to get home as fast as I could and tell someone. I decided I would spend the rest of my time off trying to research it on the internet. I decided to look back one more time. She had moved. She was standing in the middle of the trail looking directly at me, and she was closer than she should be. I ran, and I'm telling you, there has never been a day where I ran harder after seeing that. I probably could have won an Olympic gold medal for the sheer speed I kept running at. I could not even feel the pain or the exhaustion from running after I finally got back home. I have not been able to hike in the woods after that. I'm really afraid that whatever it was followed me to my house. I researched as much as I could, and the best guess I have is that whatever I saw was extraterrestrial. My guess is that I intruded on it and it used some kind of disguise to try and fool me.
Living in Wisconsin. Me 17, my cousin Ben who was 16, cousin's friend Josh also 16. They live in bumfuck nowhere. Living there for the summer, house surrounded by woods. Shed is a 30-minute walk from house, usually go there to smoke and shoot our BB guns and be idiots. 3 in the afternoon. Anon, Ben and I wanna go to the shed, we're bored as fuck. Got any weed? I was the oldest, so if I didn't go they weren't allowed to. Bought a fuck ton, so let's go, not shit else to do. Start walking down the trail to the shed. Trees aren't super dense, but dense enough that if you go off the trail you can get lost and disorientated easily. Make it to shed, doors normally chained and padlocked. Door is cracked open, chain and lock on ground. WTF Ben, I told you to lock this up before we left. If your pa saw it he'd be pie dash. Hear large cracking sound, like a tree falling in the distance. We all just look. I resume bitching. But Anon, I did. And the chain is broken, look at it. Who the fuck would be out here breaking into a shed full of nothing? 3v1, decide to check it out up close. Thick as chain, looks like it was gnawed through. I thought some new robber didn't have the right chain cutter or tools. Cracking sound again, bit closer. Fuck this, I'm getting a rifle. All grab hunting rifles and head back. Shed door fully open, weird smell in the air that reminds me of dead animals on a hot day. Still can remember it so distinctly that I can almost smell it again as I type this, but it also smelled like wet grass and something indescribable. It was so fast I hardly saw it, but it looked like a person crawling on its hands and knees at an inhuman pace. Shit bricks so hard I almost fell. It stopped about 40 feet away, could barely see it. It looked like someone trying to puke. Horrible smell intensifies. We all raise our rifles. What are you doing on private property, and are you injured? Any sudden movements and we'll shoot. It slowly begins to turn towards us. The nope is real. It looked like a person in dirty ass clothes. Might have thought it was a bum if it wasn't able to cross 40 feet in like 10 seconds on its hands and knees. Making weird gagging noise. Start pushing Ben and Josh back while watching it try to heave. As they keep backing up I raise my rifle and it makes the most disgusting gag noise I ever heard. It pukes red, pink, and black stuff. Looks up at us. Can't forget its face, still have nightmares about it. It looked like someone had beat its face with a hammer. It was all broken and dirty and bloody. Its teeth were yellow, but there was still puke coming out of its mouth and nose. Couldn't see its eyes really, it had cheek-length shaggy dirty brown hair. Can move, too afraid. Anon, let's go. Anon, fucking move. Can't. Me and it are staring and I begin to notice that its fingers are all twisted and broken looking and it has abscesses on his arms oozing blood and pus. It looks like a semi ran it over then got a molly-whopping by Chris Brown with a hammer. I feel the urge to puke, it seems it's getting darker, it must have been damn near 6. Anon, holy shit, it's moving, what the fuck, Anon, let go, Anon, come on. Snap out and shoot a warning shot towards it. It crawls off so fast if I had blinked I could have missed it. Haul asses back home till uncle shows up. I tell him. He's seen it. Tells me to forget, and gives me a beer to help. Can't forget, can't unsee, I cried all night, I was so afraid.
19 years old. High off the freedom to do what I want. Live near an abandoned school. Place is run down and looted, a massive shit show. Michael, Marlon, and I decided to smoke weed in the abandoned woodwork room and explore the school. It's 1 a.m. and we get in. Not a sound except us. Felt uneasy going in, woodwork room was our first spot to go to. Metal, door looks like it's being crumpled by an elephant, broken glass everywhere. Some genius put a pentagram on the floor. Think nothing of it, sit down and light a few cones. Move on to go through main building. More occult shit drawn everywhere in Sharpie or other crap, laugh at it and keep going. Michael goes into a room while I'm talking to Marlon. Place is really echoey, we can hear his footsteps for a bit. Then nothing. We go in, he isn't there. There's only one entrance to the room. Ring his phone, he answers but no sounds on the other end. Keep going, he probably is hiding somewhere to freak us out. Start to feel a bit uneasy going through the second floor. Place is a shithole, looks like a really large 4-year-old threw a temper tantrum and nobody cleaned up after them. Marlon is behind me while I go forwards, find the staff room, so I think maybe I can find some cool documents or some shit. Find some papers, start going through them, go to show Marlon. Marlon is missing. Avi. Some reason I feel it's not a good idea to call out for him. Try to quietly go to 3rd floor. Feel I'm being watched the entire time. Top floor, I see something in the hallway. It's some weird tall humanoid creature, taller than any of us, crouched down and doing something with something on the floor. Go to call out to it. Body says no. Exe. As I go to open my mouth, it freezes. Flight mode initiated. Bolt down the stairs and out the building, calling Marlon on the way. Phone answers but no sound on the other end, just like Michael. I get outside, don't see anyone. Behind me I'm hearing banging and smashing from inside. Keep running, don't stop. What was in that weed? Approaching the gate we came in from. I see Marlon and Michael. Both just standing there. Staring at me. Something's not right. JPG. Run back to the woodwork room. Feel safer but not out of the woods. There's 2 ways into the school grounds. I head to the other entrance. The only way to get to this entrance is to walk for 15 minutes around 2 streets and a major highway. As I approach, I see Marlon and Michael there. How did they beat me? WTF. Same blank stare. Same emotionless stance. Nah, this shit ain't right. Head back to the woodwork room. There I see lights inside of it. White lights, moving around. From phones maybe? Go to peer in. Marlon and Michael are sitting there smoking cones, acting like themselves. I run in and tell them what happened. They claim I went to take a piss. That I was gone only for a minute. WTF, this isn't acid, this is pot, don't lie. I suggest we go back home. Go to the gate, nobody there, we leave the school. I turn around and look back at the school. Swear I saw a light turn on in the 3rd floor and then turn off. Spent the rest of that night not sleeping. The school got torn down a year or 2 later. Nothing has been built there since.
Let me start off by saying, I hate role-playing threads in /X, and you can choose to believe this or not. Story is set over a period of 20 years. Me live in small rural area in Oklahoma between Tulsa and Bartlesville. County has been experiencing weird sighting of black triangles and cloaked people walking down rural roads. Cows disappearing and blood and organs being found in fields. Live on ranch with livestock. B14. Chilling at house at night during the summer playing Super Nintendo. This was early 96, so N64 was not released yet. Game room was sunroom that overlooked land, and in the distance, if it was clear, you could see the Tulsa skyline that was about 30 miles away. Get up to go get a RC Cola. Walk into sunroom and see what looks like people by our pool on the bottom of the hill. Mind you, our house was built on a hill to overlook our land. Oh shit, my little brothers got out again and are trying to swim at night. Leave sunroom and proceed to go out to the back deck. Start walking downstairs to pool at the bottom of the hill. Notice these figures are small and skinnier than my brothers. See baseball bat on staircase landing halfway down. Grab it. Feel my adrenaline pulsing. Walking toward pool, which feels like forever. Try to say something to the figures. Barely let out a word. They hear me. Pick not related. They turn around and stare at me. They have large eyes and gray skin. Start to hear static in my head. Feels odd. Start counting them, there are 4. Try to raise bat. My arms feel like they are jelly. Hearing what seems like distant whispers in my head. We are not here to hurt you unless you mess with us. Starting to feel like I am congested. Start slowly walking to 60 feel to the pool. Bat is raised, might be able to get a good swing in on them. Try to swing, miss the creature. Start feeling weak. Sit down and accept my fate. Hear footsteps on the concrete around the pool and hear the gate move. Look around, they are walking away. See the light from the TV in the sunroom. See one of my younger brother in his pajamas lit up by the light from the TV. Sit there for a few minutes as I regain my strength. Slowly walk up back to the house. Feel warmth on my face. My nose is bleeding. Walk to bathroom when I get to the house. Washing my face off and contemplating on waking my dad and stepmother up. My younger brother walks up behind me and says, "You saw them too? They have been coming around here for the last few months, that's why I draw the blinds when at evening now. A few months back I was reading Hank the Cowdog and I looked up and one of them was staring at me from my window and I felt a loud buzzing in my head, then it just disappeared. I look at him and the dots of his odd behavior are adding up in my head." My brother continues to say, "They mostly walk around outside the windows and try to peek into the windows. They know we are here but they are trying no to mess with us." Does Dad, and we will call her Sue, stepmom, know about this? No, I don't want to tell them, they might think I am crazy. Well, let's keep this to ourselves. I go back to the sunroom and turn off the TV and run back to my room freaked out. Lay in my bed all night until the sun rises, unable to sleep, listening for movement outside. When my father wakes me up, I tell him, "Dad, I want a rifle." His eyes light up. "What for?" "I just want to plink and walk the land with it." "Of course, son. Go to the tractor supply store and get a cheap SKS from a barrel and some ammo." Now I am prepared for these guys. Weeks go by and nothing shows up. Until a few weeks later, playing my new game Quake on DOS. Computer room is in the front of the house. The room is a computer/informal dining area with a window with the benches built right underneath it. Sun is going down in the Oklahoma sky. Anxiety starts setting in. Draw blinds. Play about an hour or so and start feeling an odd feeling on my back. My back is to the window. Stop playing for a second. Start listening to the sounds, hear the DO theme playing, and then I hear what sounds like movement in the bushes outside the window. Gather some bravery. Peek behind the curtains. See 2 large all black eyes staring at me. Panic mode enabled. Run from the window while yelling. My dad gets up and I hear him running. He comes into the room with a loaded 1911. "What is it, son?" "There is something outside." He walks out the front door and I hear, "Holy fucking shit." He runs back in and locks all the doors and draws the blinds all over the house. Everyone get to my office. We do, and my dad walks in a few minutes later with a few sleeping bags and a few rifles. And some food. I hear him try to call his co-workers. My father is a deputy, and tries to call my stepmom who is out of town for a conference. No service. Dad comes in and rounds up all of 5 of us. I have 4 brothers. Tell us that what is out there looks like a gray and begins to explain to us what that is. Tell us all to stay in this room all night. Dad randomly patrols the house. Brothers fall asleep. I fight it but end up passing out around 1:30. Wake up because I think I hear knocking on the window. Look around and see all my family is asleep. Even my dad is asleep with a chair in front of the locked door. Hearing rain, assuming it's the rain on the windows. Knock, knock, knock. It's coming from the window. Look out and see nothing. Hear cans fall from the direction of the garage. Dad is alert, locked and loaded. My brothers wake up crying. I forgot to fucking lock the garage. My dad screams out. Dad hand me SKS and tell me that he will lead. We slowly walk the length of the house to the garage. Hear movement in the garage. Sounds like cans are being thrown about. Dad reaches for the door handle and quietly unlocks the door. Here we go. JPEG. Open the door right as lightning flashes. Door swings open. Garage is lit up, the door is open. Dad turns on the lights. The wind blew the door open and we're scattering cans around the garage. Woo.mp3. Go close the door, look outside and see something run past the door about 100 feet away as another bolt of lightning flashes. Close the door and tell my dad. Start hearing soft buzzing. Start hearing slamming on the garage door. Then I hear my brothers screaming from across the house. Dad and I run toward them as we lock both garage doors. Run to the office, something is slamming on window. Tell everyone to get out and we all run toward the master bath with a walk-in closet with all our stuff. Banging goes on for another hour in various places throughout the outside of the house, doors/windows and walls, until all we hear is the rain and distant thunder. About 5 a.m. my dad and I start turning on all the lights in the house and all we can outside. Patrol the house and wait until the sun rises. Sun rises. We peek outside and nothing is there. It's a dreary morning. We walk the perimeter of the house and see little footprints, and my head has a Polaroid cam. Take pictures and prepare to cook breakfast. My brothers wake up scared. We reassure them and tell them it's okay. Dad tell them not to tell mom and that we will make sure the house is safe. Fear consumes the house for the next few weeks. Nothing happens. School begins and all is well. Fast forward 2 years to when I was 16 and edgy. Be 16. Working on the property and feeding the cows. Multiple cows are out in the pasture. About 10 a.m. in the morning. I walk towards the cows with my SKS slung on my back and notice they are standing by a creek, mooing like they are lamenting something. Walk toward creek bed where the cows are standing. Smells like hospital and rotting flesh. See 3 cows mutilated and a calf fetus still with the umbilical cord attached floating in the creek. Run back to the John Deere Gator and call my dad on the walkie-talkie and tell him to call the sheriff and to come here. Flash forward an hour, deputies taking pictures and coroner looking confused. Hear a Crown Vic roll up and a few guys in slacks and button-up shirts walk up and identify themselves as Oklahoma Bureau of Investigation. Start their investigation and they call a college vet to come pick up the bodies for investigation. They drive off with the cattle bodies and we go on our way, and that night I have to stay up and patrol the property on a ATV and make sure nothing goes wrong, while my dad stays at home by the phone in case I call for help on the walkie. Be around 10 p.m, driving my ATV down a dirt road, hear a car rolling down the road. It's a all-black Crown Vic. As they drive by I notice 2 men in all black in the front. They stare at me as I wave at them as I pass. Go about a mile down the dirt road and hear a buzz just like the one I heard 2 years before. The hairs on my neck stand up and I see something slowly move across the sky and hover over a house down the road and then move on, then it shoots all the way up. I sit there in awe for 10 minutes. Hear jets in the distance. 2 jets fly over me, probably from the Air National Guard base in Tulsa. They make 2 or 3 passes. I drive on and for the rest of the night see or hear nothing. Spend the rest of my weekend with no issues. Go to school on Monday and everyone has seen the black triangle and knows what happened on our ranch at my school. People are saying it's a common occurrence, but the Air Force and the feds are keeping in quiet. It happened to me and hence why I am here without trip fagging. Flash forward 1 year. Be 17 and getting ready to graduate high school. Preparing to enter the Oklahoma National Guard. Still working on the ranch and keeping my eye out for odd things. Late evening and I am driving my beat-up 1986 Silverado with my girlfriend, who is the stereotypical 90s goth girl listening to Pantera on a back road in Oklahoma, being edgy and different. We stop on isolated part of my family's ranch. Start a bonfire and pull out a 12-pack of Lone Star beer. Drink some beers and get drunk. Bang a gong, we're getting it on. Looking up at the stars while the fire dies. Hear buzzing, ignore it. Hey, do you hear that? Says my GF. Yes. She looks at me, I hear it all the time at my house, I think it's just the electricity from the power lines. Feedback.jpg. Stars black out over us in the shape of a triangle. She is screaming and hurrying to put her clothes on. I put my pants on and we run to the cab of the truck. I struggle to start the truck. Crank it a few times. Finally it starts. Start hauling ass towards the road. Shifting gears like a boss. Bust through a barbed wire fence and look in my rear view mirror. See triangle slowly following us. Hauling ass down this country road trying to get to the highway to be around other cars. See storm following behind the triangle. About a mile till the highways. GF screaming for me to go faster. Not in a good way. It's raining so hard right now. Pushing my truck to the limit. See bridge I have to cross is flooded. I tell my GF to hang on and I make a sharp left turn into a field and check my rear view mirror and see the triangle is still following us. Make sharp right turn back onto road and see the highway. Relief.jpg. Get on highway. Still hauling ass. See blue and red light on other side of the highway. Cars on the other side of the road are stopped and people are staring in awe at this triangle. I cut through the median toward a few stopped sheriff cars. They are in awe. The craft stops and hits a crazy amount of speed and flies off. The deputy looks at me and says, "Hey, you're Deputy Anon's son, right?" "Yep." "Was that thing chasing you?" "Yes, sir." "Holy fuck, kid, from where?" "Near Ramona." "That's like 6 miles, kid." I am still in shock, my GF is crying. I drop my GF off at her house in the shadow of a mesa in a trailer park, poor rural area. Drive home and my dad has been told that I was being chased. He listens and tells me I did the right thing. Go to school the next day, that's all they can talk about. I graduate high school and go into the National Guard. Fast forward to 2003 when I get home from Iraq and I am going to college and working part-time as a corrections officer at the local jail. It's raining so hard right now. Pushing my truck to the limit. See bridge I have to cross is flooded. I tell my GF to hang on and I make a sharp left turn into a field and check my rear view mirror and see the triangle is still following us. Make sharp right turn back onto road and see the highway. Relief.jpg. Get on highway. Still hauling ass. See blue and red light on other side of the highway. Cars on the other side of the road are stopped and people are staring in awe at this triangle. I cut through the median toward a few stopped sheriff cars. They are in awe. The craft stops and hits a crazy amount of speed and flies off. The deputy looks at me and says, "Hey, you're Deputy Anon's son, right?" "Yep." "Was that thing chasing you?" "Yes, sir." "Holy fuck, kid, from where?" "Near Ramona." "That's like 6 miles, kid." I am still in shock, my GF is crying. I drop my GF off at her house in the shadow of a mesa in a trailer park, poor rural area. Drive home and my dad has been told that I was being chased. He listens and tells me I did the right thing. Go to school the next day, that's all they can talk about. I graduate high school and go into the National Guard. Fast forward to 2003 when I get home from Iraq and I am going to college and working part-time as a corrections officer at the local jail. Get home from Iraq. World is different. Killed a few Iraqis. Go to my part-time job at the sheriff's. Get moved from the jail to patrol. Badass.jpg. Having a typical boring evening shift, sitting in my patrol car listening to classic rock. Eric Clapton.mp3. Dispatch calls, 843, we have a call about a person hanging around a ranch at etc. etc. Go to call because I am unit 843 and it's probably just a bored kid wandering someone's property. Starting to fucking rain. Get to residence, put on my rain jacket. Fucking dumbass call, I say to myself. Walk to house, knock on door. Sheriff's department. Door cracks open, it's near the barn, short little fellow, probably a kid that's wandered onto my property. LOL, okay, this is a easy call. Hearing thunder in the distance, I can hear some AC/DC coming from my car subtly. Walk toward barn, my radio is starting to squeak and get choppy. Fucking rain, I say to myself. Hear footstep near the barn. Hey kid, it's the sheriff's department, I am gonna need you to come with me so we can take you home. Walking stops. Hello? Kid, it's the sheriff's department. Walk around to the side where I hear the stepping and pull out my mag light because the sun is going down fast as the rain picks up. Huge fucking black eyes reflect back at me. My eyes are watering and my head is buzzing. My radio is making a moaning sound and my head is buzzing. I hear it walk toward me, I see it walking toward me, and I pull my 1911 out of the holster and pull the hammer back with all my strength. You missed with the stick, you're going to miss with that, rings in my head. I put my head down. Buzzing stops and I look up and nothing is there. I put the hammer back on my 911 and my radio is back to normal chatter. 843? 843? We have reports of a large triangle near your call, are you okay? 843? I get on the radio, I am okay. Dispatch is going nuts, we called your number for the past 5 minutes. My radio went to shit because of the storms. Dispatch, cancel, officer, non-responding call. Hear like 5 patrol cars rolling down the road to my position with sirens and lights. Walk back to the house and tell the lady it was just a deer from the front, they look like kids. All my co-workers are worried as they turn around and drive back. 843, we have a civil disturbance at address. I am on it. Driving the 7 miles to my next call. I hear various radio calls about the sighting of a black triangle and focus on my call. Get to the call and it's a familiar place, it's where my GF from high school lives with her parents. I knock on the door, I hear yelling. The door opens, it's her mom. Oh hey Anon. Someone put you in a deputy outfit, or did they think you were sane enough to be a cop? Ma'am, I don't have time for this shit. She tell me my ex is having violent fits and outburst, and I walk toward her room in the trailer and hear yelling and screaming. I open the door and see her thrashing on the ground and drop to my knees and try to calm her. Anon, they know who you are. Who? They do. The things, we saw the triangle and they are trying to get to you with me. I look at her mom and she tell me she was diagnosed with bipolar depression last year. What do you want me to do, ma'am? As I look to her. Take her to the hospital, maybe a few weeks in a padded cell will help her. Call dispatch and use the I have a 5150, was just Cali police slang, but now it's just police slang. Handcuff her and put her in the back of my squad car and begin to drive her to Bartlesville, nearest city. She is talking to me and telling me that they know my younger brothers are my weakness. My radio is going off with reports of multiple F-16s flying over the area and a black triangle showing up after they RTB and then they scramble them again. Get to hospital. Leave her there and continue on with my shifts the next few weeks. Get a phone call at 3 a.m. 4 weeks later. Hey Anon, your ex hung herself in the hospital, she left and not saying that you were being watched and they are after you. Everyone laughs it off. I don't and tell my father and he looks at me. Son, they are here every night outside and your stepmom is in denial. This was the 90s and early 2000s, we have Polaroids of them but they are at my father's house, I am not sure where they are, and I also have a few other things too. Dad is literally sleeping 4 hours a night and walking the house when he is up at night. My stepmom is taking Xanax and working her rounds at the local rural healthcare clinic like nothing is happening. Fast forward 2 years and I am finished with my associates and I am working full-time at the sheriff's department as a corporal. No happenings lately. One day during someone's shift they call me and tell me that they found a girl that was missing naked in the woods rocking back and forth. She has been missing for 1 week and was found by a few hunters. The girl was talking about big eyes and gray little men. Investigators are treating this as ASA because they see signs of traumatic sexual activity and other bruises. Take her to the hospital and Homeland Security took over our word case and took us off the case. Homeland Security goes to our headquarters and starts taking reports and evidence from every call about cattle mutilations and black triangles and odd sighting. Then tell us all any future calls need to be notified with the Homeland Security office in Oklahoma City. Fight breaks out between feds and sheriff's deputies in motor pool. They keep screaming Patriot Act, Patriot Act as we fight. The MAND one actually pulls his sidearm on us to make us all stop. He says if we continue all of us will be stripped of our post certifications and blacklisted from policing for the rest of our lives. I fall into a deep depression and drink about 8 to 12 cans of Lone Star every fucking night. Become a functioning alcoholic. Work my shifts, all they are meth heads and domestics. One day around 2007. I was working the night shift and it was 1:30 at night and I was chilling on a back road taking a piss. Feels good man.jpg. Hear the piano exit of Layla playing over the radio. Nice clear Oklahoma night, no worries. Hear a thumping in the distance. I have heard this before. Digging deep in my memories. Thump, 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 thump. It's getting closer. That's a fucking Black Hawk heli. Get in car, turn of lights as it gets closer. Heli flies over. Leave all my lights off and begin to follow heli. Following heli for about 20 minutes. Our beats are fucking huge. Heli lands in a wooded opening near a nice new house. What the fuck? See multiple black SUVs and a lone sheriff's car with the deputy sitting beside it looking like he is being scolded by some Homeland uniformed officers. I turn on my driving lights and wait for the deputy to pull out so I can talk to him. Deputy comes out and I wave him down and he tells me to follow him. We drive about 2 miles away and make sure we are not followed. He tell me that he got a phone call from our LT about a person peeping in the windows of a house and went to investigate. He told me he went to look and about 5 minutes later some DHS guys rolled up and told him he had no jurisdiction at this case and detained him for a while. I connected the dots in my mind. DHS is there in less than 5 minutes and uses a fucking helicopter. They must have a place they operate from in the county and they must be listening to our calls. Finish shift and go to my father. Tell him what I think. He says, yep, that's the issue, we are meddling in something they don't want us to know. Lay low for a few years and just be officer friendly. Cont to 2010. B 2010. Met a woman and married her, she works as a general surgeon in Tulsa. I am still bebopping around my sheriff job wearing my khaki and my cowboy hat, common deputy outfit in OK. Working my beat, it's raining and I am thinking about quitting this job and moving to Tulsa ND working the urban beat. Sitting at a railroad track while In Bloom by Nirvana comes on, I think back to being a teen and think of my GF who killed herself and all the crazy moments. Dispatch to 843. This is 843, we have a missing child case at address reports of the little girl following a fireball. It's around the 4th of July and fireworks are shot off a lot in the country. I put my Crown Vic in drive and make my way towards the address. I am greeted by one of my younger brothers who is now a deputy and the parent. She is talking about how the whole house lit up and an orange ball shot through the house and he daughter started to follow it and she points in the general direction towards the forest. I look at my brother and he looks at me and he has a face that I have not seen in about 15 years, a face of fear. We tell her that we will go into the woods once another deputy comes and is able to stay with her in case the child comes back. Third deputy shows up and me and my brother tum on our mag lights and walk into the forest. We walk about 300 feet into the forest and our radios go nuts and my cell phone battery dies as I try to make a call to dispatch. Fuck it, I yell to my brother as we go deeper into the forest. I start hearing help. It sounds like it's echoing and I whisper to my brother, you hear that? Yeah. It's not a voice, well it is but it's in our heads. Help. Help, it sounds like a distorted child's voice. Our flashlights die. Fuck, these are fresh batteries. AHH blasts over the radio before it beeps that it's dead. Help. We both sit in the forest and wait for our eyes to adjust to the darkness. BTW, I went to Ranger School around 2006 for a promotion. Help. I pull out my SIG 226, 9mm if you want to know. I whisper, let's move up. We move up about 200 feet. Help. Start to hear a soft buzzing. I hear actual crying about 500 feet to my front. Help me, Anon. I look to my left and my brother is right beside me. Why did call for help? That was not me, but it said your name. Help me, Anon. Move up, brother. I whisper. Getting closer to the crying. Right on top of the crying. The girl is in a dried creek bed. Bloody and cut up. I jump into the creek bed. She whispers to me they are watching us. Hey Anon. Something is up here with me. Run bro if you have to. Help me. I hear my bro start booking it back to the tree line, and now in my mind I hear help and a buzzing. I cannot climb out of the creek bed because it's about 10 feet up. Walk with one hand holding my pistol and the other holding the girl. Hearing leaves move above the creek bed. That you bro? Silence. Start hearing a clicking noise. Hear something drop behind me. Turn around real fast and it's a rock. Turn around again and hear help. Start booking it to a place where I can run up the creek bed. Clicking sounds are falling behind me. Still hear running behind me. Run about 500 feet down, run up the creek bed. Start running towards the tree line. A orange ball of light flies past me. I start to hear running towards the front of me and I see 10 flashlights and I start running towards them and notice they are 10 deputies with AR-15s. Come on Anon. I am running the fastest I have ever ran in my fucking life. Help. Reach the line with the deputies with the AR-15s and their lights start to fail and their radios beep and then the night goes dark and a humming goes over us and blocks the stars. 6 orange balls fly up towards the craft and it speeds away right as 2 F-16s fly over. We all walk towards the squad cars and hear a helicopter on the horizon and it flies over and places a spotlight where we were and 3 DHS SUVs pull up. Blah blah Patriot Act blah blah. They have those little radiator detectors and they beep when they scan us with them and they run towards the forest and begin looking. Go through SOP and make it home at 8 AM and crack open a nice cold RC and rest, but only for a short time. My wife and I had 2 children and ended up leaving me for a banker in Oklahoma City. B 2014 living in a nice trailer in the country on my family's ranch and still working at the sheriff's department. B one night I am watching some shitty late night variety show. Hear a knocking on a window. I didn't hear anyone drive up. Grab SIG. Check window and nothing is there. Power goes out. Shit.jpg. I got some Gen 3 NVGs from the Federal Police Aid Program and I kept them because we had no use for them. Put them on, my dark world turns green. Walk to my room and put on boots and find a kin silencer for my SIG. Gonna fucking end this. Quietly make my way outside. It's eerily quiet. Check my perimeter. Change things up and go the other way. Knock knock asterisk from the other side of the trailer. Make my way quietly toward the other side. See gray man trying to peek in my window. Yell help me. Thing looks at me and screeches and starts to run off. I give chase, not thinking to fire at it. Full of anger. Been fucking with my life for the past almost 20 years. This motherfucker can run, speed up as I attempt to catch up to it. I am gonna kill you motherfucker. Creature is running towards the ranch house. I see the outside lights of the house as the hill comes into view. Odd, my house is without power. Running toward the creature and all of a sudden it runs under security light and blinds me. Take off my NVGs and try to readjust, start to see spots in my vision. Fucking shit. Vision comes back and I am looking at the pool, the creature is looking back at me. Feel my pockets and feel a baton. I flick it out. Walk toward the pool. If I lay one lick on you better never come back. Those empty soulless eyes just stare back at me and I hear buzzing and my nose bleeding. Extend baton. Walk towards creature. Whack whack. Land 2 on its head and it lets out this blood-curdling scream. Then I kick it into the pool. Hear it struggling to keep above water as it slowly swims toward the stairs. Walk to the stairs and spit in its face. Land one good whack on its head again and then feel a burning in my body and hear a buzzing. The lights go out and I cannot move. 4 creatures show up and drag the wounded one away. The craft flies off and I collapse my baton and hear my dad running down the steps. Anon, you okay? Yep. Walk home. Sleep. Fast forward to 2016. I am now remarried and still working at the sheriff's, but we have had no odd cases reported in 2 years. Also, I will post Polaroids in a few days once I find them to back my story up.